I had a match all picked out, ready to show you guys. And while I was just waiting in the lobbies, I happened to spectate this match. It fell into my life, and I just knew immediately that I needed to show you guys. Welcome back, everybody, to the Brightworks, where today we're taking a look at Sulphur Springs. This is a less commonly played map, Sulphur Springs, similar to Thermal Shock, I believe is the name of the other one. That's sort of balanced in this way. It's sort of a south side versus a west side balanced match. It's interesting, but it does mean that we get some pretty cool lines that people fight across right here. So I'm excited to show you exactly what goes down during this one. We're going to take a focused look at our red team leader right here, who's spawning as an Armada commander right up on the front lines, and goes by the name of 8D. We've talked about this before, doing more one-on-one, not per se one-on-one, but definitely closer looks at some of the best of the best and how exactly they approach the game. And I think, well, I know for a fact, because I spectated this match, that this is an excellent opportunity to really get into the mindset of what exactly a pro Armada player is thinking when they're playing here, especially when they're getting aggressive and playing on the front line. The blue team with a little bit less of a aggressive start here, putting their blue commander way in the back here. Acheron, the blue commander, going to be hailing with 50 true skill, my goodness, and at the very least securing their team's economic future, right? Parking the backline as your highest skill commander means virtually every time you're going to, at the very least, have a very, very solid economy. About 10 minutes into the game or so, eventually those T2 economies come online, whether you continue ecoing from there or whether you continue to go ahead and, or you switch up rather and go into unit production. Obviously going to be up to each commander, but already 8D has got a tech across the map and is ready to get aggressive with it. So there's a commander in base. The Madman dives the tick in here. Metal Extractor already being blasted apart right here. Euphoria trying to figure out how to deal with this. The Metal Extractor will be repaired right here, but the tick will just barely out DPS the commander, and boom goes the Metal Extractor. All you think you could probably get as far as value goes here. But no, the tick lives with 7% HP as the commander struggles to get control of it. This tick in the backline gonna start blasting away this Metal Extractor here. Gets another kill. 7% HP, not much more I can do except kite around the Metal Extractor where the commander can't actually attack it. Oh no! And all three Metal Extractors go down right there from the single tick for 8D. Now this is where it would end for most normal mortals like you and I, but this is the difference between a pro and a Joe. You can see 8D uses that scouting information and realizes, hey, there's not actually any units available right now for Euphoria. Why don't I transport my commander forward with this really early air trans that's been handed out from the backline? So there we go. Commander transported forward, charging up the D-guns here. D-guns down the lab and the constructor here. Oh. Constructor here, there we go. Constructor goes down and the entire front line has essentially been obliterated in under 3 minutes of gameplay. My goodness. Now poor Euphoria, right? 44 true skill going up against 14, definitely playing out of his league and against a commander that has absolutely no right to be an even match with. Definitely tons and tons of experience, tons and tons of gameplay hours going up against much, much less. Not to say that this was a fair fight, but I just felt like it was such a beautiful example of what really you can do if you're willing to think just a little bit outside of the box, risk a little bit more, and the reward is tremendous because now 8D can build all these Metal Extractors quite comfortably. We have the pawns to reinforce all this on the backline, so these are going to go clean up some of these grunts that we're thinking about counterattacking. I love you also producing some pawns as well, going to send those forward to try and shut these down, and at the end of the day, the grunts get dealt with quite nicely here. We have unit production up in the backline here. You can see these constructors starting up more wind turbines, trying to stabilize the energy economy that is in desperate need of some growth right now. 8D pushing so far and so aggressively forward that he's actually outpaced his own expansion here, but has bought that time by essentially shutting down everything that the Powder Blue Commander has to offer here. You can see virtually no metal left in the bank right here for the Powder Blue Commander after we've gone ahead and built a, well, 3 Metal Extractors, an LLT, the lab again, and then a single wind turbine. Yeah, we need power desperately. We need metal desperately. This is a terrible, terrible situation, undeniably, for our Powder Blue hero right here. 8D has thoroughly secured all this. Now, a little blitz run by comes out over here. Interesting decision to pump out a Centurion to deal with all of it, and it cleans it up quite nicely. The... whoops, pardon me. Yes, ha ha ha. You could tell the Powder Blue player Euphoria was absolutely on board for a little bit of payback right there, but not going to be the case as the blitzes are cleaned up right now and the Centurion waddles its way home. interesting that we can use this to our advantage by eating up the laboratory here. So rather than taking that on the chin and just repairing the laboratory and continuing to produce, we're actually going to use the damaged laboratory to eat it up so that we can move the laboratory forward. It's so multifaceted, so crazy multifaceted, where we're constantly making the best possible use of every single situation. Here go those constructors in the back line. They're going to build some static defense, and then eventually they're going to work on this geothermal over here, all by the time that even a single unit is going to come out of the bot lab right here for Euphoria. Just splendid. Over on this right-hand side, I Love You is pushing forward. We just watched the commander of the blue team, the blue leader anyways, sacrifice himself in the background up on the top left-hand side there. But I Love You is pushing pretty far forward here. We do have a bunch of pawns, and pawns are definitely going to be good enough against these grunts, especially with decent enough micro. They can outtrade them, they can outpace them, they can basically kill them 100% of the time. I Love You in a little bit of trouble, but a nice D-gun will solve that issue. And just like that, taking advantage of the opportunity, the red player jumps on top of this lab right here for the purple commander, Mango, as well. Beautiful, beautiful play. My goodness, it's back and forth like crazy. Well, maybe just fourth. All of this because of, oh, and indeed, the purple player even leaves the game at this point. All of this because, of course, we went for that vehicle start early on, and this is something that mathematically makes a lot of sense, right? These vehicle commanders don't have a lot to put out on the field initially, so it makes sense that they don't have a whole lot to give you at the very start of the match. Oftentimes, though, it's hard to determine whether or not that's actually valuable or whether or not you can capitalize on that, but here you go. Multiple commanders, all vehicle commanders, with essentially no base defense because the commander is, roughly speaking, forced to move forward to capture those metal extractors, and the pawns have ravaged everything in the backline. Some Silver Star heroes right here. Other pawns taking down E-converters, some taking down wind turbines, more and more running around all over the place all the time. And just like that, 1, 2, 3 bases have been effectively turned off right now by the red and yellow commanders working in tandem right here. The blue commander, Acheron, takes over the purple commander right here on the front line to rebuild at this point. But it's certain to say that this is a very comfortable moment right here for the red commander, who has been allowed to build quite a few of these Rocketeers, despite all the static defense that Euphoria could cobble together in the few desperate moments before this army came marching forward. It is essentially the perfect army for dealing with static defense. This Rocketeer is going to be perfect for blasting apart any of these LLTs, or even the medium LLTs, the twin guards. Even though they are outranged, they are only outranged by about 5, which in bar speak is virtually nothing. Which means, of course, that they're going to be very, very useful. Now, the Rocketeers are blasting all this away. Meanwhile, we do have a little bit of aggression over the right-hand side. You can see a couple of ticks trying to move their way around, but Milquetoast doing a great job of wrapping all this up, keeping it well-controlled right here and pushing forward into this zone. Meanwhile, in the Navy, we do have 2 commanders battling it out over here. We do have Sunky going up against Wish for Wings 24. Going to be showing us their naval skills to pay their naval bills. Very slow expansion right here, though, from Sunky. It looks like we have not contested the middle hardly at all. We're more aggressive with our positioning right here for the green commander, however, essentially missing out on tons of the metal extractors that come with it. I'd love to see a transport handed over so that maybe we could, at the very least, utilize those land mexes on the island over there. Move the commander over to grab those, and then maybe the metal extractors around that area as well. The base of Euphoria has officially been assimilated, and there goes AD eating it all up and putting it back into units on the back line here. See a couple of constructors coming, a single constructor coming up, more Rocketeer reinforcements. We do have some res bots around here somewhere, I believe. Well, maybe not. Geothermal also contributing significantly. One of the most efficient ways of producing energy as far as metal cost goes. Really, really efficient. Now this was a cool moment too. So you'll notice in chat, hold on, I want to pause just so we highlight what just happened there. Why you don't push here, says AD, which is a fair critique, right? We're trying to make sure that the lines stay pushed right here. And then the yellow commander says 3 rocket or give me. So that was actually a really beautiful little engage. So you can see that we have tons and tons of Rocketeers the lane has won. So this works tremendously because now these Rocketeers have the opportunity to split off without hindering too much to the progress of the front line. These Rocketeers are now going to move across in this direction, sweeping away the LLTs over here. And the yellow commander essentially didn't have to pay too much for it. All they've really had to do is worry about getting their tech up and running. So now we have a T2 transition completely completed. The red T2 constructor will be heading out there shortly, and the T2 mexes are going to come online, effectively transitioning this win over on the left-hand side into a win against these LLTs over on the right. It's the perfect amount of teamwork, right? Love that from the highest level players. Not complaining. They're not, you know, there's no sass. there's no back and forth about, well, you should produce units, you need to make units. It's, you know what, you're right. I have extra units and I should lend them to you because they're the right units to do the job over there. And just like that, I Love You is going to utilize them to push forward here, using the commander for its radar range as well, and these Rocketeers will eventually sweep away tons of the LLTs over here. Just tremendous what a little bit of teamwork can do. I've said it before, and I'll say it once more for anybody in the back that might not have heard it. Teamwork makes the dream work, especially in Beyond All Reason. We've all seen the cheesy T3 rushes, especially in those big 32v32 games that we sometimes do live on stream. 12 to 4 Tuesdays and Saturdays, PDT. Just in case you're interested in joining in, there's a link down below to join the Discord where I announce all that. But anyways, we've all seen the cheesy T3 rushes for that sort of a thing. However, it's completely different when you're quote-unquote winging it in-game, right? A little bit of a miss micro right there. Loses a couple of the red spots. Not the end of the world, but certainly a little bit of a bummer. The red spots are the sustain that this army needs. But you can see the numbers are just sufficient here too. All of that metal that was turned into a base right here for the Powder Blue Commander was effectively turned into Rocketeers. Means that there's just more than enough metal to go around right now. Crispy Bacon going to be running out of units right here as the Grave Robber retreats for its life. And luckily, some reinforcements from the Purple Commander are headed in. Now we do have some bombers coming in as well. A couple of bombers headed in from the Pink Commander, utilizing that opportunity to go for a little bit of an attack here. Prioritizing taking down Megnina. Yeah, Megnina, there we go. Utilizing their T2 transition as an opportunity to drop some explosive payload directly into their base. Lovely opportunity to go for a little bit of bombing. Now at this point, that T2 constructor has been handed over. It's been airlifted over here to this metal extractor, this very valuable metal extractor. That'll be coming up in about a minute or so, but we've also got our own T2 transition up on the front line here. As you can see, that T2 transition going to be very valuable because also we can go for this advanced geothermal. And the advanced geothermal, similar to the regular geothermal, is an extremely efficient way of getting your T2 energy started, right? You can get a lot of very easy value that way. Now this is an interesting move. So the Blue Commander, using that backliner economy, using that tech-based economy right here, in order to put up a whole bunch of static defense. So you can see we've got a Persecutor up and running that's going to be shelling away at a whole bunch of these T1 units, effectively outclassing the T1 by, well, factors and factors of at least 2. Making sure that if they push forward, it's going to be an inefficient trade to say the very least. And that's certainly useful. Bit of an interesting way to play this, but those switchers are quite powerful, and so this is a cool kind of a situation for it. Another Persecutor and a whole bunch of Twin Guards planned over here as well. We have a little bit of a medium tank push. Yeah, there we go. Medium tank's gonna sweep away a couple of these LLTs. They don't really care all too much about those LLTs. They're more than happy to just shrug it off, put it on the armor plating like you put it on a credit card. And there they go, making investments in the future of the red team by shutting down the metal extractors. What a strange extended analogy, but I'll commit to it. I'll commit to any analogy. Persecutor almost finished up over here, so this should hopefully prevent these run-bys in the future right now. Definitely not a surefire thing, though. Persecutor's easy to overwhelm, especially with medium tanks. Medium tanks can overwhelm basically anything just for their sheer durability. And speaking of sheer durability, they are not done quite yet. There they go. Maroon tanks from Koro rolling their way into the backline. We do also have a Janus tank over here. Persecutor continuing to fire away. Blasting away whatever it can. The counterattack has begun. Aggravators on the front line here. Gonna be pretty dismayed to find that there are hounds now in production. We do have a bunch of butlers here running around helping out wherever they can as well. We're getting ready for a full-blown assault right now. But we're hoping to time it right when this geothermal finishes up. So about 40 seconds left on that geothermal, barring a stall. And assuming that no stalls occur, then in about 40 seconds time, we'll have plenty of T2 units, as well as plenty of, well, T1 scrap. Units that we no longer need to keep on the front line, aka T1 scrap. That's what I am officially coining them. And that'll slowly start to trade out against this T1 really, really nicely. Euphoria doing the best of a very bad situation right here, using the commander to set up some of these spy turrets, just so that we can keep a little bit of vision around. Not the most useful thing in the world, but certainly has its uses, and whenever you manage to use one of those things for a little bit of accurate spotting, it does feel like it's well worth it. Doesn't take a whole bunch of an investment either. 15 energy per second, 32 metal, 850 energy. Definitely nothing in the grand scheme of things. Now, I've neglected the battle over here, but the important highlight is that the Tan Commander has absolutely won. We've shut down every single scrap of Navy power right here for the Green Commander. Not but a single destroyer remains. Now is the time to continue pushing forward. For whatever reason, the Tan Commander is not interested in that, though. Going to continue to sit on this Navy and watch in its glory. Just basking in the sunlight of this Tan Cortex Navy. When realistically, sending it forward would definitely be the right move. Do we have a... Yeah, we do have a Resbot moving over here to reclaim a whole bunch of this as well. Lovely, lovely stuff. At this point, we have an Air Force up and running here as well, so that's going to be shooting down any of those bombers that try anything cheeky. There are bombers moving up to this northern side, which is important to keep an eye on. But for the time being, here's another cheeky little play. So we're sending a spy bot forward right here. You can see the path that we've already planned out for this spy bot to traverse, getting so much prevalent scouting information. I mean, look at how good this is. Figuring out exactly where these buildings are, exactly what's changed and what hasn't, and scouting out any of those really valuable buildings as well. Anti-nukes, for instance, anything like static defense, persecutors, all those things. Figuring out those exact locations, really, really valuable. Pitbull turret over here doing fabulous work as well. Not quite one-shotting any of these aggravators, but certainly if they take a single rocket or a hound shot or anything else to weaken them even the slightest bit, then it will be. They're very, very powerful, the Pitbulls. Definitely making it unpopular for Crispy Bacon to push into here, similar to the way that this Persecutor is functioning, although at a fraction of the cost, which is tremendous. Rattlesnake here, the equivalent to the Persecutor, are going to be firing away, at the very least denying this T1 army, going to force us to upgrade to T2 if we want to take an efficient trade against that static defense. So here we are with the blue commander trying his best to keep this situation under control here. You can see the Persecutors going up, the Persecutors, the Twin Guards, all of it going up all over the place. Sort of an interesting way of playing backline, essentially playing as a support character, I guess. You're kind of using your resources to just defend your allies, as opposed to using them to produce units, for instance. And we all know just how powerful those units are, but maybe there's something to be said for this style of gameplay. Certainly there's something to be said for the Twitcher in general. An extremely powerful option. It has the Persecutor, the Twin Guard. It can also build Fiends, Destroyers, and Ducks. Makes them really, really useful for dealing with Navy units because the Ducks are quite good in the sea, and the Destroyer obviously is the most powerful T1 naval ship. So if you're looking for an easy way to get those Destroyers pumped out after you've transitioned to a T2 economy, which is a viable strategy, certainly this might be one option here. They can also build build power, which is pretty powerful as well, and commandos. They really are the bot that can do it all, aren't they? Commando's very, very popular. Now this, to me, strikes as an incredibly greedy play here, building tons and tons of build power, and then an APHIS right here on the front line. Not even in the back line here, going for the front line APHIS after we've got the economy all sorted and settled. We've got a couple of constructors working on some E-converters in the back line here, working off just 1,700 energy here. Most of that coming out of this geothermal, but we've got a little bit of it coming out of wind turbines and whatnot all over the place as well. Persecutor's still very powerful, though. Now, the Twin Guard's not going to be nearly as powerful, not nearly as important that those stay alive. Not good enough to deal with these Hounds marching forward, as they do outrange them. The Hounds, that is, outrange the Twin Guard towers. Means that slowly but surely we are working our way through a lot of this T2 static defense. Might be worthwhile to send a couple of these expendables, the ticks, forward, just so that we have proper scouting information and so that that Persecutor stops firing at our expensive troops. Does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? I don't think so. Persecutor getting overwhelmed here already, as it doesn't have vision of exactly what it's shooting at, just has some radar to go off of. And without those frontline LLTs to keep this nice and safe here, the Persecutor will eventually fall to the Hound fire. Beautiful, beautiful play. Shuriken's pulled on top of all this. Going to be the paralytic answer to the problem here. But it's like I've said before, the Shuriken is a band-aid, but it doesn't really fix the issue. Not entirely, anyways. The Green Commander, by the way, has tapped out of the naval field. And you can see this spy bot in the backline right here. Continuing to scout around for whatever it can find back here. Revealing the economies at the very least. Maybe the reason why the Red Commander feels so comfortable going for the nuclear option, choosing to go for a nuclear warhead after scouting around and finding exactly 0 anti-nukes. For anybody on the blue team right here, certainly a struggle that I can empathize with greatly. The anti-nuke, always an easy thing to forget about until you hear that nuclear launch detected, and all turns to ash. We've got dreadnoughts in retreat here. This is a common sight, and it's one of the reasons I hate playing Armada Navy. And I'll admit that only once on camera, but it is true. It's this right here. This is a terrible, terrible instance, but a great highlight of why this is such a bummer is because these cannons cannot shoot past each other. It's one of the reasons why the Despot is so much better as a battleship than the Dreadnought is, and it's because its laser cannon, its forward-mounted laser cannon, as well as all 3 of its Gauss cannons, are able to fire at the same time, even when it's on full retreat. It means you can kite a whole lot more effectively, which for Cortex seems a little bit strange just from a conceptual level. But anyways, it's the reason why Cortex T2 is so much more powerful than Armada T2. It's these unfortunate gun placements right here. I wish that maybe one day we could get a single exception in this game for plasma guns and allow these forward cannons to phase through the holes of the ships like the laser cannons can for the Cortex destroyer, the Cortex battleships. Maybe one day. I don't know how big of an effect it would have, but I certainly know that that fight would have gone a whole lot better here. We wouldn't have lost a couple thousands of metal, 3,300 metal worth of naval ships to, you know, 1,000 metal of naval ships, relatively speaking. Either way, those T2 ships coming online definitely blindsided the TAN commander, who has not gone for a T2 transition. Well, it does have the T2 transition, but doesn't have the T2 units out yet. There we go. Despot production is going to start up right here. I want to make sure I didn't miss something. No, okay, we're good. There's another funny surprise lying in wait for us that I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss as I was checking out this match, watching it for the second time now, catching all the details that I didn't catch the first time. Big old hound ball moving forward right here for the Brown commander, going to be slowly stepping these forward. We do have the radar and the radar jammer included in here as well to keep these nice and safe. Does mean that these are going to be able to push forward with essentially no fear of any sort of long-range bombardment. At the very least, as long as that anti-radar bot is there, all should be fairly well. Nuke is up, but not quite charged. We have the Armada nuclear launcher, which does charge quite a bit quicker than the Cortex launcher. It also affects a much smaller radius, so that's the trade-off you get for that. Personally, I think that's probably a more than worthwhile trade-off, because more often than not, you need to target a specific singular base rather than targeting a wide open area, right, or a big swath of area. So I think the Armada nuke probably universally beloved as the more potent of the two. Meanwhile, these frontline units absolutely tearing themselves apart over here with the friendly fire. My goodness. The Persecutors firing every which way right here to try and kill these ticks means that they've killed so many of these poor aggravators on the front line. Oh no, even the aggravators firing away over here. The answer is simply to retreat back to the twin guards over here. They would be more than happy to blast away those ticks completely free of charge. Well, it's not completely true. It does cost you a little bit of energy in order to kill those, but certainly would be quite viable. Losing radar towers, losing everything to these Persecutors in the backline. Maybe it'd be worth it to put those in the front, just so that they're not friendly firing about as much. Koro, my goodness, with the static defense. Crazy, crazy trenches dug right here by Koro, the Maroon commander. Look at all this static defense. Tons of heavy laser towers, tons of beaver towers, tons of these ferret pop-up anti-air towers. We hardly ever see those in game. Tons of LLTs as well. This is about as dense a T1 LLT forest or a T1 forest as possible. Ah, Mako tank. Do we need anti? Acheron responds, nah. People forget nukes exist. Now keep that in mind, as we do have a single nuke charged right here. AD going to continue to allow this nuke to go like that, and you can see, despite the the spectator chat being turned off, I can guarantee you that I know exactly who this was. This was my genuine reaction to reading that chat and then zooming over to this direction and seeing exactly what had been built right here by the red commander. Now, I'm glad to see this APHIS. It's hilarious to see a frontline APHIS like this. You can imagine any concerted T2 push would have been able to blast through most of these defenses. The Pitbull certainly would have been viable to fall there, but the Rattlesnakes also not necessarily the sturdiest of defenses, and Arbiters would have been a perfect answer there. But the lack of aggression over here means that the red commander has all the time in the world to continue building up the defenses. We've got anti-air guns building here, some of those flat cannons, the arbalist for the armada commanders. Meanwhile, in the Navy game, there we go. Nuke is ready, and I needed to catch this. This was plot relevant that I catch this. Up goes the nuke right here. Fires into the sky, beautifully launched. And as soon as it does, everyone in the chat, Mako Tank says, huh. Acheron says, never mind. Everyone knows the grave mistake that they've just made. The naval fight is losing slowly, but I think we better watch over here. Boom goes the base of the blue commander. All the build power E converters, but not the Aphises pop. Surprisingly, 13% remains on one of these Aphises over here. Probably placing this so that if there was an anti-nuke ship out here, it wouldn't be hindered. The anti-nuke wouldn't be able to stop it. But there was no anti-nuke no matter what, so the spy bot will go back in and check this. Probably surprised to see those advanced fusion reactors still standing, but a second nuke that was charged up will be able to finish the game. But before it even lands, the blue team realizes without an anti-nuke to cover themselves, this game is already well won. Beautiful, beautiful plays from AD here, showing us exactly what a pro can do with proper scouting information, proper timing, and a keen eye for violence. Destroying enemy resource production, absolutely. Acheron making huge investments into the team, but eventually, at the end of the day, it's the aggression that wins this game beyond all reason. Let me know what you thought about this one down below in the comment section, or if you saw something that I missed, I'm always happy to see that in the comment section as well. And I will see you guys in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.